My name is Alvie Spencer, Jr. I was born in Patapsco, Maryland.
When? When's your birthday?
1933.
What month?
February 1933.
February 1933. And what was your address, the house where you were born?
The address back then was just Patapsco Road, Patapsco.
Oh, that was it? None of the houses?
No
because
house numbers.
No house numbers.
No.
So how did people get their mail?
Well, we had a local post office here, and we had a little cubby hole in the post office. You went down and picked up your mail.
Oh. Now, was that for just people on Patapsco Road, or was that the whole area?
No, we had a post office here for Patapsco.
Okay. Now, when you talk about Patapsco, do you, what area, how much area did that involve? Because Patapsco has two roads, doesn't it? So it sort of splits now. What was it like before?
Geographically, it's pretty tough to define, but it was the main road that goes through the community right now. And then the railroad tracks was important because there was some homes on the railroad tracks. And then the road, which is I think they currently call Wesley Road, for a distance was considered Patapsco. And that was about it. I mean, there was no strict municipal boundaries or anything like that.
So how many people in the community when you were a child, about?
Strictly a guess, from my point of view, I'd say several hundred max.
Several hundred max. And what were the names of your parents?
Alvie Spencer, I'm a junior, and my mother's name was Myrtle Marie Shamer Spencer.
Oh, she was a Shamer. Okay, okay. And can you tell us what the neighborhood sort of looked like when you were growing up?
Not too much difference than it is now, really. It was pretty much the same. I can't say any dramatic difference.
Pretty much all as it was.
As it is.
As it is, okay. And can you tell me what you remember about, about the kids that were your neighbors and that you grew up with?
You mean the names of them?
Yeah, or you can tell me the names or anything about them in particular, or where they are now, or...
Well, a good portion of them are dead now.
Yeah, right. Okay.
They've gone. But the Blizzard families were local, and the Sykes family, and McMillans, and they were the ones of my age, and most of those are gone.
So how long was your family in this area? Have they been in this area for many, many generations?
My grandfather bought the house that I was born in the late 1800s, and then my father bought the house from him.
Okay, great. In the late 1800s. So the house was already built.
Well, the house goes back long before that.
How old is the house?
The house was, I think, best guess, built in the late 1700s.
Really?
And it's been built too over the years. It started out as pretty much, a small house, which was the kind of house that was built in the late 1700s, and then was built too.
And did your family have that house for what, more than 100 years? I mean, generations of your family?
My dad died, and my mother died in 1983, so the house was sold after that. So it was approximately 100 years, yes. 100
years. It's interesting, isn't it? The families that have been in the area seem to have always been here.
Yes.
Extraordinary. What was your first, do you remember your first job?
My first job was after I left here, really. I went away in 1952 to school, and I really didn't come back. I mean, I come back to visit my folks, but that would be it.
But as a child, did you have, what was life like for you as a child?
Well, we listened to the radio before television days, and then later on television came on. Baseball was a big deal around here. Practically everyone played baseball. And pitched horseshoes, and played typical childhood games.
Well, like what? What were the typical childhood games?
Hide and seek and things like that, many of them which I've forgotten, really.
What I'd like you to tell me about is what it was like, maybe if you can remember back as maybe a 10-year-old boy. And how did your day begin? Because none of these houses, did they have, they didn't have indoor plumbing, did they?
Yes, we did.
Oh, you did? Okay, okay, all right. So what was life like for you as a 10-year-old?
Well, I just hung out, I guess you'd say, and if there's any of the neighborhood kids were available to play games, we played. Um, there was a baseball diamond here in the community, and we used to congregate there and play ball.
And where did you go to school?
I went to Sandy Mount Elementary School, Westminster High School.
Westminster High School. And what time did you have to get up in the mornings to get ready to go to school?
About 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. And how did you get to school?
School bus.
The school bus came and got you? Oh, that's great. Okay. What about, let's see here. What was your, can you tell me what your school was like? I mean, what was your class size, maybe your teachers, that sort of thing?
Well, I'd say the average class size was probably maybe 25 or 30, thereabouts.
And how do you think it compares to schools today as to when you were growing up?
Dramatically different.
In what way? Can you name any of the differences?
Well, they taught the basics, reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Right.
And history and the basic courses, which now I don't think they teach in the same fashion. It's all core curriculum, they call it today. And the teachers were a lot different. I think you got a lot more personal attention. You got a lot of discipline. And there was no hesitancy about whipping you if you got out of line. And I didn't get whipped, but I got my knuckles slapped a number of times. That was the first phase. I mean, was getting your knuckles slapped by Miss McGurr. But then Mr. Griffey, who was the 6th grade teacher and the principal, he had no hesitancy at all about taking you out and whipping you with a big old paddle.
Really?
Absolutely.
What were the sort of indiscretions that you would do that would get you?
Anything that was considered mischievous or that was bothering the rest of the class.
Would that be just talking, or?
It could have been if one were persistent in doing that.
Okay, and can you tell me about some of the people that you knew? You told me before when we talked on the phone about the tremendous history and things like that that you were very interested in sharing. What were some of the things you wanted to relate about what was like here in not only Patapsco but in Carroll County?
Well, I remember hearing stories. My grandfather was the railroad foreman on the railroad when the wreck occurred in 1905. And the wreck occurred just south of here. And I forget how many number of people were killed, but there was quite a few, 30 or 40, somewhere in that magnitude. But that was a big discussion piece, was what happened during the wreck and how it occurred and the events leading up to it and the aftermath.
What do you remember about that? I know you weren't alive then, but what do you remember about that?
Well, I just remember hearing stories about what had occurred. It happened on a Saturday afternoon in July, and the southbound train apparently had a lot of railroad workers on it who were working on the railroad, the Western Maryland Railroad, and they were coming home for the weekends. And the northbound train apparently was heading for Penmar Park up in that general area. And there was a breakdown in communications, and there's been a lot of discussion as to how that occurred. But in any event, it did occur. And back then you had steam engines. And when these two steam engines collided, there was explosions. Boilers burst. And when they burst, there was a lot of people were scalded. And one train was apparently carrying a lot of lard in transport, and the lard, when the boilers exploded, the lard exploded also, I guess you'd say. So there's a lot of people covered with lard, boiling hot lard, and there was also bodies apparently strewn along the railroad track and in the general area. So that sort of resonated with me as a kid, you know, hearing these stories. And like I said, my grandfather was a foreman on the railroad, so you know, he would pass these things on to my dad. And then my uncle, Emil Caples, was also a witness. He saw he didn't see the wreck, but he was there soon after the wreck. And he told many, many stories about what happened.
Is there any way to identify exactly where the collision occurred?
Oh,
Because
yes.
I can't figure out exactly where it was.
Yes, I can take you to the spot today.
Can you tell me what sort of indicates it, or is there?
Well, the nearest intersection would be where Tank Road crosses the railroad tracks, and it would be just on the Patapsco side from that. There's a house down there today, which is almost right across the road from where the wreck occurred.
Oh.
And the Tank Road got its name because there was a water tank there, and when you had steam engines, you had to fill the tanks periodically, and there was a water tank there.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Let's see. What was your sort of favorite thing to do, or place to go in Westminster or in Carroll County as a kid? What did you sort of enjoy?
Well, the big deal back then was, as a youngster, going to town on Saturdays with my parents, go shopping and go to the movies.
Go to the movies.
And quite often, some of us would get on the train and head to Westminster early in the afternoon to see a double feature Western. And then our parents would come up later and pick us up and bring us home.
Let's go back to that. You say you got on the train? Now, how did you do that?
Here at Patapsco, there was the passenger trains ran. There were several passenger trains that ran every day to Westminster from here.
So they just where they went from Westminster?
Oh no, the train actually started down the road. I assume in Baltimore, and went all the way up to I believe to Hagerstown.
So you could just hop on the train. What did it cost to ride the train? If you were going to go from here to
It
Westminster?
was pennies. I think maybe 20, 25 cents, if I remember right. It wasn't much.
Really? And as a kid, I mean, kids could just get on the train and go up to Westminster.
Yes.
And so what was, does Westminster look pretty much the same as when you were a kid, or do you think it's changed?
Oh, no, Westminster has changed rather dramatically. I mean, then it was essentially one main street, but the Main Street and Green Street were the two dominant streets. Green was primarily residential, and Main Street had all the commercial activity.
Did you get married in Carroll County, or?
Yes, my first marriage was in Carroll County.
Yeah, and what church did you get married at?
At the Catholic Church in Westminster.
Okay, what was the name of that church?
St. John's.
St. John's. Is that the one that's still there today?
Well, it's moved. It used to be on Main Street.
Oh, okay. And do you remember, or can you describe any sort of summertime fairs or Halloween or Christmas or any other special times of the year? What it was like for you?
Well, at Christmas time, the church always had a Christmas program. And
what did you do in your family, in your house? What did you have for Christmas?
I mean, what we have to eat? Or
No, well, yeah. What did you eat? That's a good
I think
question.
it was either turkey or chicken, as I recall. It's been many years ago. I forget the menu.
Yeah, of course. And but what was it like? I mean, do you sort of remember waking up Christmas morning, and what was that like for you?
Well, it was the same sort of event. I mean, you were anticipated gifts and so forth, so you had trouble sleeping the night before, and you got up early and went down and saw what Santa Claus brought.
What sort of gifts would you have gotten as a child? Remember any of your favorite toys?
Games, baseball gloves, things like that.
You see, kids today have completely different kinds of toys and games, so that's why I'm asking you that. So a baseball glove, like board games?
Well, a rector set, chemistry sets, and things like that.
Things like that. Okay. What was your favorite toy? You remember? Did you have a favorite toy?
I had an electric train that I would like to play around with.
Do you still like trains today, or have you any interest in trains today?
Not that much, no.
No? Okay. All right. And you went to St. John's Church, is that right?
No, I did not.
Oh, no, you just got married. So what church did you attend?
Didn't, to be truthful, didn't attend any.
Okay,
any
okay,
years.
all right. And what was your favorite thing to do in the summer? So, you know, what would be the one thing that would really, you would look forward to in the summertime?
I love to play baseball.
You love to play baseball?
Yes.
Okay. And I noticed just down the street here, there's a stream. Did you swim in the stream here?
Used to be a pond down there, yes, a swimming hole. Called it the mud seal, I think it was.
Called it the what?
I think they called it the mud seal, if I recall, something like that.
Oh, now is that down under the other bridge, the
It's
Wesley
down
Bridge?
near the bridge, yes, where the railroad bridge crosses the river.
So you and your friends would go down there and swim in the
Yes,
water. Okay. And did you ever walk up the streams to see where they went? Or?
Oh, yes, oh, many times.
Yeah, could you tell me what that was like? Because I'm curious about that. What's up these streams? How far up can you go?
Well,
Because the headwaters are around here somewhere. It comes out of the ground.
yeah, I don't remember exactly how far we went up to. There was one area they used to refer to as Harper's Ferry up there. And Charles McMillan and I used to journey up there periodically along the river.
Yeah? Yeah? What would you do when you went up there? What would you look for?
Well, nothing specific that I can recall, just to see whether see what was there, and just sort of, I guess you'd say, speculating.
Great. Now I'm gonna stop asking you questions. I'm just gonna let you talk because you had a lot of things you wanted to tell me about, and I want you just to go ahead and you were talking about some of the people, and you talked about McDaniel College and the football. So whatever you wanted to tell me, you go ahead and just start talking about it.
Well, there's several facts I think pertinent to Patapsco that maybe most people don't know, and one is that we had 3 Major League Baseball players come out of Patapsco, and there would have been a 4th if it wouldn't have been for the unfortunate fact that one fellow was killed in a train wreck traveling between cities. And
Do you remember the names of these people?
Yes, there was Ben Spencer, who was one of my ancestors, and Ray Spencer was killed. He was killed in Illinois. He was playing in the AAA for Dayton, Ohio at the time in the Cleveland Indians system.
And when was that? Do you remember when that
was?
That
was in 1918, I think, or 1919, I believe.
Okay.
And he would have made the major leagues, there's no doubt about it, because he was the best hitter in the AAA American Association back then. And Ben Spencer played with the old Washington Senators. John Flater, who is Adele Gray's father, played with the Philadelphia Athletics. He had a long baseball career. He played 17 years professionally, and he was from Patapsco. And the 4th was a gentleman named Harry Fanwell, and he also played with the Cleveland Indians. He was a pitcher. And they're all 4 from Patapsco.
Ah, right here. So these were people that maybe you didn't know, though. They would have been before your time.
I knew Mr. Flater.
Yeah?
The rest of them passed on before well, Mr. Ben Spencer now, he'd be a cousin of mine. He died in the 70s, and I remember talking to him many times. But Mr. Fanwell moved away from here after his baseball career, and he died years and years ago. And of course, Mr. Flater, I forget the year he passed away, but he lived here for a long while after his baseball career.
Right. Now, you know the old church that's up the road here that's on the other side of my house. It's really just used as a warehouse. Can you tell me anything about that building? It's coming down, apparently. It's falling down.
Yes. The only thing I remember my mother saying is that there was a split in the Methodist Church way back around the turn of the century. And there was the split occurred because of changes in thinking and methodology and so forth and so on. And there was what was considered the Methodist Episcopal branch, and then the Methodist Protestant branch. And one of the churches, and I don't remember which is which, was the one you're referring to, and the other one is the church on the hill.
So what happened? Do you know?
Later on, there was a consolidation because it became inevitable that they couldn't survive financially, and so there was a reconciliation, and the one branch was sort of merged into the other.
So they came back together.
Came back together.
And then what happened to the building?
The building was a residence for many years, at least while I was growing up. People lived there.
They had no running water and no electricity, though.
No, that's correct.
Yeah, yeah. So how did your house had indoor plumbing, but a lot of these houses didn't, and they had. Did everybody have electricity? I guess they did.
Yes, during my time, yes.
During your time, okay, okay, all right. What sort of clothes did you wear? Where did your clothes come from? Did your mother make them? Because store-bought clothes weren't as common as they are now. Most
of mine were store-bought. My mother, she never claimed to have a lot of ability when it came to making clothes. So most of mine came from stores.
Most of you came from stores. Okay, great. And how many brothers and sisters do you have?
I had one half-sister.
Okay, and what's her name?
She's passed on. Her name is Alvie Spencer.
Okay, and do you have any children?
Yes, I do.
No, well, who are your children?
Terry Spencer, Craig Spencer, and Jennifer.
Now, is Terry a boy or a girl?
Terry's a boy.
A boy, okay. And do they still live in Carroll County, or?
All three of them do, yes.
They do? Okay. And they have children?
Yeah, well, Jennifer does.
Jennifer does?
Mm-hmm.
What's the name of the grandchildren? Uh-oh, now this is on tape and you forget the name of your grandkids. Okay, we'll edit that part out.
Isn't that terrible? This is a senior moment. Oh, God.
Okay, well.
Yeah, forget that one.
We'll forget that one, okay. Grandkids will come along later. It's okay, Alvie.
It's an odd name. That's the reason why I'm having trouble.
Something like Taylor or Harlow or Madison or Chandler or something like that. You know, the names today are very different.
Come back to me. Ask me that later.
All right. All right. Now, it's interesting that so many of the people that grew up here, the families are still here. Why do you think that is? Still here in Patapsco. I mean, the names are named, the roads are all named after the families, and the families are still here. What do you think is the reason why?
It's a good question. I can't answer that.
But it's true, isn't it?
It's true, yes.
It's true. There's something about the place. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe magical in a sense. Something that just keeps the people here. It must offer the people something. I mean,
as I said, I can't answer that.
You can't answer that. Now, where do you live now?
I live about 2 miles from here.
Oh, so you're still in Carroll County?
Yes.
Okay, so you went away to school and then you came back.
I came back, yes.
Did you find things had changed much?
You referring to Patapsco?
Yes.
Somewhat, but not dramatically so, no.
Are the people very different today than they were when you were a kid?
Most of them are people I either are contemporaries or else offsprings of contemporaries.
That's wonderful, isn't it? And if you were to describe what is best about living in Patapsco or living in Carroll County, what would that be?
I guess the main thing is the community, the fact that you knew everyone, and everyone, I think, was concerned about their neighbors, compassionate people, kind and generous people. When I was a youngster and people were sick, you know, there was no hesitancy at all about people going to tend after them or look after them. And it was that kind of community. It was a very close-knit community.
Would you say that's pretty much the same for the whole county? Do you think the county's pretty much like that? No?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at
So Patapsco is a very unique spot within Carroll County.
I think Patapsco, and I'm sure there's other communities within Carroll County that have the same personality, the same character. But never having lived in any of them, I can't, I can't
Right.
give examples. But there's a number of small communities in Carroll County that haven't changed over the years.
Okay. And can you think of perhaps one really vivid memory that stands out from your childhood, something that really you remember to this day?
One thing that comes to mind is the war years and how the
Which war?
the Second World War,
Okay.
and how the community came together to look after their servicemen, the people who were drafted into the Army and Navy and so forth. And they were tough years, and we had several of them were killed. The women in the community especially got together and put on plays to raise money, to send money to the servicemen. And that went on for all during the war years, really.
They actually sent money to the men in the
Yes.
service.
Yes.
Now, why did they do that?
Well, they did it because they felt that they were serving for them, looking out for their security, and that there was a small price to pay.
Oh.
And so they sent them food boxes and money, and the women would put on these plays, and they would take them on the road.
Really?
So to speak, yes. They were in such demand that they had they'd go to Hampstead and Manchester and other places to put on these shows.
Now, these are the women of Patapsco.
Women of Patapsco.
Oh my! Can you remember any of the ladies that were involved in that?
Certainly Vera's mother, Miss Doris Barrick, was involved. And,
I didn't hear the name.
Doris Barrick,
Oh, Doris Barrick.
she was involved. My mother, Miss Alvie Spencer, she was involved. Miss Thelma Schaefer was involved. Miss Merle Mosier, who's passed on, well, they've all passed on really, was involved. But Miss Ruth Knight, I guess, is the only one I can think of offhand who's still living.
Now, what were these plays? What sort of plays were they? I mean, since the men were pretty much gone,
Yes.
what were the plays about? Do you remember any of the plays, or?
The only thing I remember was they had some sort of a takeoff on the Grand Ole Opera.
And the ladies got up and sang and played instruments?
It was musicals.
Really?
Yeah.
My gosh, I wonder if anybody ever got that on tape, filmed that.
That was prior to high tech.
It was prior to the, okay. All right. And what would you have liked most about? Was there, what did you like most about living here? What did you like most about growing up here in Carroll County and in Patapsco in particular?
Well, I think I referred to it earlier. I mean, just the fact that the close-knit community and companionship. And I lost track of a lot of my contemporaries as I went on, but they were certainly rich and fulfilling years.
Wonderful, wonderful. Is there any particular thing you'd like for people to remember, people that you want people to know?
About what?
About anything to do with living in Patapsco or living in Carroll County?
I think we've hit them all. I can't recall anything we've missed.
You feel like we pretty much covered all the bases that are important to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Important to you. So now that you're grown up and you just live a couple of miles away, and that's interesting because you could have gone to live anywhere.
Yes.
Why have you stayed here?
My first wife died, and when I remarried, my second wife is from western Pennsylvania, but she was on the faculty at the medical school in Baltimore. And when she got accustomed to coming up here in Carroll County, she felt that this was a more desirable place to live than the Baltimore suburbs where she was living.
Right.
And so she fell in love with the area, and so we built a home, just, like I say, just several miles from here.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. All right. Well, Alvie, thank you very much. I am very grateful. And there's nothing else you'd like to share or let us know?
I think we've hit all the high points.
We hit all the high
that I
and
recall.
did we get the name of your wife now? Is she still alive, your wife?
My second wife, yes.
Yes. What is her name?
Her name is Dr. Barbara White.
Dr. Barbara White.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And is she still practicing?
She's, yes, she's a scientist and medical doctor and PhD and all that stuff.
Where does she practice?
She was on the faculty at the medical school in Baltimore, the University of Maryland Medical School, and then she decided she had enough of academia, and she's moved on. She's with MedImmune Corporation doing clinical research.
Oh, that's wonderful.
In the inflammation area. She's a rheumatologist and an immunologist.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Okay, so how do you pretty much spend your time now?
I read a lot, and I play tennis, and I'm still running, and I still lift weights. So,
Incredible. And your weight hasn't changed probably
No,
10 pounds your whole life.
I'm college weight, 160.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time
Well, thank you very
today.
much.
I appreciate it.